Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Rich Longo, and I'll be your host. Thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners presentation. Today's webinar is on Avanti's IT Service Manager. Our presenter will be Flycast Partners' very own Kyle Hamilton. Kyle is a principal consultant with demonstrated history of working in the information technology and services industry, as well as a SE. He has a strong background in business service management, sales network automation, ITIL process, ITIL service management, ITIL asset management, and numerous other principles within the IT industry. Too numerous to mention. He's got well over 20 years in the space. So before we get started, Kyle, let me introduce our organization, Flycast Partners. We're here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. So we were founded and staffed by personnel that have many years of experience in this IT space, and we took those best ideas, best experiences, and added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. Now, we offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, enterprise service management, and workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practices. Our professional services team can easily scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to reinforce your organization's long-term IT success. Our ongoing remote administration support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on those normal day-to-day operations, saving you both precious time and money. Feel free to reach out to us at any time at 844-FLYCAST, that's 844-359-2278. Or you can visit us on our website, www.flycastpartners.com. We'll be happy to chat with you Monday through Friday during normal business hours. We do have live IT experts standing by just for you. I encourage you to poke around on our website and check out some of the technology offerings that we have, some of the different services that we offer, or training that may assist your organization in taking that next step forward. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this presentation over to the star of the hour, none other than Kyle Hamilton. Kyle, you have control. And I see your screen. It looks great.
Okay, well, thank you, Rich. And good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to attend this webinar. For those of you that have attended any of my webinars in the past, you'll know that I do not spend any time in slideware or slide decks, so hopefully that's not going to upset anybody. We're going to dive directly into the tool, start looking at the interface, talking about functionality, and as we go through, please feel free to use the chat window to ask any questions you may have, and we will do our best to address those as they come up. So with that, I'm going to talk about a few different views of Avanti Service Manager. Now, Avanti Service Manager is based or uses what we call role-based access controls. So every user that logs into the tool will be assigned to one or more roles. You can see here in the drop-down list some of the out-of-the-box roles. Those can be expanded upon, edited, configured according to your environment so that they match up with your organization specifically, whether it's change manager, whether it's somebody that's HR management, executive level that just needs to come in and pop in and grab reports so that you're able to control what they have access to, what they see, what kind of records they can access, etc. So we'll take a look at a couple of these roles as we go through today and show you what those experiences are like. The first one of those being the Avanti Customer Portal. So the end user experience. What does an end user see? What kind of access do they have? What can they do? How can that information be presented to them in a logical fashion so that they can find answers, they can submit issues, they can submit requests. This is fully configurable, does not require any kind of development or scripting to be able to go through and make alterations or changes to the interface. So everything is very point and click and drag and drop. So you don't have to know how to code or develop in any kind of language to be able to make changes to this interface. Whether you want it in kind of this big block style where users can simply come in and click on, I need something, or I'm looking for an answer, I want to search the knowledge base, or maybe you want to change that up and you may want to present that to a user in more of a tabular format where you simply say, hey, here's our service catalog and the requests and the templates we provide, maybe a chat window where if they need to chat with somebody that's logged into the service desk that can provide some kind of immediate feedback or immediate answer. Those things are all fully configurable by you as the administrator, so you can more or less define how that user interfaces or interacts with the service desk and what they see and what they don't see. Now, kind of front and center, you'll see is the search window or the search box. So typically your customers that are accessing the self-service portal, they're going to start typing a question, a keyword or a topic. And as they start typing in, it's going to start looking through those knowledge base articles, the FAQs, the solution articles, and presenting them with some results that they can review. So hopefully, if you've curated and built that knowledge base, they have easy access to be able to see, follow these steps 1, 2, 3, and this should resolve your issue. Hopefully, that can help you to avoid the need for that incident to be submitted or that request to be submitted. You can also use things like feedback and ratings that users can utilize to not only determine which articles are most relevant as they go through that search, but also to find, based on past feedback and ratings, which articles users have found most valuable and used the most, so that not only do the customers have the ability to use that to quickly hone in on a specific article that is going to provide the right instructions that they need, but also for you as an administrator to be able to understand on the back end which articles need to be created, what needs to be deleted, what needs to be updated, so that you're able to curate that knowledge base and manage that knowledge base effectively. Now, in addition to that, they have out of the box also access to the service catalog. Now, with Avanti Service Management, there are roughly 80 out of the box templates that are provided for different types of service requests. Everything from HR requests to, of course, IT, facilities, legal, anything where you have any kind of paper-based form today, whether it be a Word doc or PDF document that users go through and fill out and have to send through emails or attach and send around, you can easily construct that into the self-service interface and allow users to access and search those things, whether they do that based on that departmental breakdown, they're looking for IT or HR services or IT services, or they need an office move, or it's a little too cold or a little too hot, leaky faucets, whatever the case may be. You've got some great out-of-the-box templates to use that have workflow and notifications already built around those, so that you can get going very quickly with the solution versus having to start from the ground up and build everything, starting with a blank piece of paper. Now, when it comes to those more complex services like HR, for example, things like onboarding and offboarding is typical example. I need to hire a new employee. I need to provide them with a certain level of system access. I need to make sure that they can log into a particular application that they need. I need to make sure that they have the equipment that they need day one. This is where you can construct specific forms, present those to the user so that you can ask all of those detailed questions that you need. So as the user goes through and provides all of the information that's needed, you can define what's optional, what's required, and you can also build your workflow based on their responses. So as they provide information, you can make determinations as to which teams need to be engaged, which tasks need to be assigned, etc., based on the responses that user provides. You can go through and add additional questions. Again, you've got kind of an out-of-the-box format here. I've added, just a simple question here with a checkbox. So that could be, do you need a key card, access to the facility? Yes or no, that type of thing. As they go through and they provide these responses, you can also attach cost that may be associated with different responses. So you'll notice over on the right-hand side, there is a tabulation or a ledger that's keeping tab of the cost of the request, the initial request itself, the base level request and what that costs to fulfill, as well as any kind of service level agreements. So if you have a 1 week lead time, 2 week lead time, 3 week lead time to onboard an employee, that can be presented to the user, and it can also be enforced when they go through and actually make the request. So if it requires 2 weeks in order to onboard a user, then we won't allow them to make that request for tomorrow or next Monday or next Tuesday. We're going to force them outside of that 2 week window so that you have that minimum lead time to be able to actually deliver on these services. If those requests that they make actually incur additional costs, if they want an office instead of a cubicle, they want a corner office with a great view, they want to be on the top floor penthouse, you can easily build those things into the form so that as they make those selections, that those things get tabulated, whether you're using that for just internal tracking purposes or whether you're doing any kind of bill back to departments, or if you're an MSP and you're billing out, to external customers, that you're able to calculate all of those costs associated with the different types of requests. If they need assets, what type of assets do they need? So you may build a catalog of different models of equipment that they have available to them, different options that they have to be able to add to that request. So if they need additional monitors, or they want a slimline laptop as opposed to the, big brick laptop, additional keyboards, mice, things like that, you're able to create all of those questions, system access, whatever you need. So as they go through, they have the ability to fill in all those required details. You can turn on things like Amazon shopping cart functionality if you want to allow them to simply stack up requests and submit multiple requests at once, or you can turn that off and simply allow them to, or force them to submit things one at a time, so that you not only give them the ability to be able to submit requests and incidents through here, but also to be able to get status and update information through the portal as well. So they can come back to the self-service portal and find out, based on their request, where it is in the process, has it been approved, is it in the process of being fulfilled, has it been completed, and everything's ready to go for that user. So hopefully you can avoid any kind of follow-ups that would be related to, just status and update calls and emails, drive them back to the self-service portal, and hopefully take that additional load off the service desk and allow those users to get all that update information right here through the portal. Now, there's also the ability to see over the top, a little broadcast window. So you may have outages and events that may affect, the environment at large, multiple groups, a specific department, a specific customer. So they have the ability to broadcast information out to those users. So you see this broadcast banner up here at the top, where I may have, different notifications that go out to the users to let them know, hey, email's currently experiencing an outage, or internet access is currently degraded at the Chicago facility, so that hopefully you can use that broadcast information as users log into the self-service portal. They can see those informational updates, those broadcasts, and hopefully be able to use those to stem the flood of calls that typically roll into the service desk when you have some kind of widespread event or outage, so that you don't suddenly get flooded and everybody's lighting up on the phones. You can notify them that you're already working on something and have some kind of expected uptime, so that you can hopefully reduce that load that would typically flow into the service desk when something widespread occurs. Now, as I switch roles from an end user to, let's say, somebody that's responding to a request or an issue that a user submits, of course, they'll have their own dedicated interface. Now, before I go any further, Rich, do we have any questions that have come in yet?
Not as of yet. And audience, please remember that we have a question section within this GoToWebinar. So ask any questions you have. Kyle will be happy to answer them before our time is up today.
Okay. So as we switch gears from an end user to, say, service desk analyst, some is level 1 support, level 2 support. These are the ones that are actually fielding the requests, fielding the incidents that are coming in. You have the ability to present, a unique interface for them. Now, again, it can take the same kind of format as the self-service. You can have it more graphical if you want to present it in kind of a summary view and allow them to drill down into information based on site or based on location or region or priority, and allow them to get to a list of those requests. Or you could simply present, those lists right up front so that, I can easily see the things that are assigned to me, things that are assigned to my team, things that may be unassigned, and waiting for somebody to pick up and take responsibility for. So you have the option to be able to provide one or more dashboards for your service desk analysts. So when they log in, they have quick and easy access to be able to dig into those requests and incidents and be able to respond in a timely fashion. Now, if I take my onboarding requests that we just submitted, then you'll see you have the same ability here to be able to design the layout and the format that you want your service desk staff to have access to. What fields of information, what kind of information do they see? What do they have access to? What can they modify? What's read only? If you're tracking any kind of service levels, response targets, resolution targets, those can easily be defined and made available for the users so they know and understand exactly how much time is remaining within that resolution target, what those escalation points are, at which point we're going to start notifying, a broader audience, their manager, their director, other users, so nothing falls through the cracks. And you'll notice down here at the bottom through the tabs, I have the ability to see those automated notifications that go out, so that within the journal, you can define as a part of your workflow, things like, notifications to customers to say, hey, we've captured your request, here are the details we've collected, notifications to staff to say this has been assigned to your group and team, you need to respond, as well as, that ticket ages or that request ages, those escalation points and points in between as things get updated, so that those things can happen automatically and be added to that journal through the workflow. Or, of course, you have the ability to go in and manually add those notes and details and time tracking information to that journal as users go about responding to and working on a given request or a given incident. Now, if you have any kind of approval process that needs to be followed, regardless of complexity, that's one level of approval, 20 levels of approval, you need to send it to a person, you want to send it to a group or a role, or a combination thereof. It needs majority vote, it needs just one person to approve, or it needs unanimous approval from everybody. You can define all of those activities through the approval workflow. So as an analyst, I may have visibility into the approval process, but I have no ability to actually interact with the approval process. Now, if I'm logged in as a role that has a greater level of access or permissions, like the incident manager, service desk manager, change manager, administrator, whatever that may be, when I view that same request, then based on those permissions, then I may have ability to actually then interact with that approval. So rather than just having visibility, now having the ability to actually provide that approval. Now, again, it could be one level, it could be multi-level approvals. And then once you've gone through the approval process, you'll notice on the task tab that's just next to it that you can then, as a part of the workflow, have those tasks and assignments and those notifications automatically generated and sent out to the appropriate groups, teams, users, so that they get notified that it's time to go ahead and start accommodating or completing those tasks in order to onboard this particular user. Now, those users, once they get notified, can come in and go in and they'll have their own details and journal that relate directly to the task itself. You can provide options to them as to how they want to deal with that task. If they're really busy, flooded with calls, don't have time, maybe they need to reassign that to another user on their team. Maybe it has a little more free spare time and can accommodate that user quickly. If they're ready to accept that task, they can simply accept it, at which point it's going to go ahead and assign that task to themselves. They can go in and enter in their notes and their details and do all their time tracking within that journal. And ultimately, once they're complete, they can come in and input, maybe it took them 45 minutes to go ahead and get the telecommunications set up, get their phone configured, voicemail, things like that. So that as you're looking at that service request, you can see when and by whom that particular task was completed. And at the same time, if you're doing any kind of cost tracking, you can also assign a billable rate to those groups and teams. So if you want to track things like labor costs in addition to service costs, then those things can be additive to the overall cost of the request. So as users go through and complete each of those individual tasks in turn, where it goes from IT to facilities to HR, as they go in and enter in that time it takes for them to complete that request, you have those updates available within the request itself. And at the same time, it's going to go ahead and create that cost item that's going to show you exactly how much in terms of labor costs. So if it took me 20 minutes for this last task, now I've got all my tasks completed. I've got cost items that display for each of those different groups. So whatever their bill rate is, I know exactly how much labor cost was involved in actually fulfilling that request. And you can automate things like the fulfillment, the update of the status, so that we show immediately that the request has been fulfilled. Part of that detailed journal would be that notification to the users that goes out and says, hey, we've fulfilled your request, everything should be ready to go. If you want to go take a look at the record, click here at the link and you can dive in and see all the details that we're looking at through that self-service portal. But all of that can be automated from start to finish. Then I look back up here at my service request targets, and I can see that that I met my response target and I met my fulfillment target without even having to go through those escalation points. So all of that can be easily built into the workflow engine, so that you remove as much manual process as possible out of this particular scenario, whether it's onboarding, whether it's user access, whether it's offboarding an employee, whatever the case may be. The same kind of concept can be applied across all the departments within your environment, not just IT, but anything within the organization you're looking to automate. Now, Rich, I'll stop again and see, do we have any questions as of yet?
We are not seeing any questions, folks. Now's your time to pick Kyle's brain. Oh, wait a minute. Nope. I take that back. Here they are. Mike wants to know, when creating task assignments, can you use variables in the task summary, or do they need to always be a static statement?
No, absolutely. You can, within the task assignments, part of the workflow, and I can even show you if you look up here on the top right, as a user, as an analyst, you can even provide them visibility into the workflow process. So this is essentially, in this case, what the onboarding process, what that workflow looks like. Just as we're looking at it, it's just the way as you build it. So the red arrows or the red indicators that you see within this diagram actually show me the path that this particular request is taken, from the time that it's submitted to the time that we evaluate it. In this case, looking at dollar value, did they request $2,000 worth of equipment, or did they ask for $5,000 worth of monitors? That way we can determine, does it just need to go for that first level of approval? And in which case, once it's approved at that level, then we then look and see again, well, it was over 2,000, but was it over 4,000? And in that case, if it's not over $4,000, then you'll see, then it branches out of there and starts creating the desktop support tasks and facilities and the telco tasks that we saw. Now, if that user had clicked one more box and said, I want that, 45-inch, Ultra HD monitor, or I need an extra laptop, then it may have needed to go to an extra approval level, or maybe a third approval level. So you can build this up using hard-coded values, or you can use expressions within the calculations. So, when I look at dollar value, for example, I can come in and I can look at a specific field, or I can even do calculations on that field and maybe multiply it and add the, say I want to add tax or additional costs on top of just the base price. So you can certainly hard code those elements into the workflow, or if you want to create variables and use parameters that can be pulled directly out of that ticket, then you can use those raw values out of the ticket, or you can even perform calculations on those entries and come up with some other value that can then be evaluated. So it gives you a lot of flexibility as to, what particular path a request may take, whether it requires one approval, 2 levels of approval, etc.
Okay, and an example is given. They want to make sure they understand. For example, in the telecom task, does the subject always say telecom task, or can it say telecom task 4 and then in brackets, new guy, question mark?
Yeah, absolutely. So it may say within the telecom task, you can take values out of that submitted request. So everything that's been collected. So we know who made the request. We know when they start. So it may not just say provide telecom system access for new employee. It may say provide telecom system access for, bracket requester, close bracket. So that way, instead of just saying new employee each time, you're getting the actual name of the person that made the request or submitted the request. So anything within here, whether it's the team assignment, the owner of the task, the details of the summary of that task, all of those can be variabilized based on the input the users provided. We can pull all the details out of the request and pipe those directly into the task, so that every time the task gets created, you're going to get, instead of provide system access for new employee, it's going to say provide system access for Kyle Hamilton, or provide system access for Rich Longo.
Okay, and they said thank you, they understand. And
Excellent.
That's the last question. Anybody have any other questions? Please type them.
All right, so as we look at, say, an incident request that comes in through the self-service portal, or somebody, picks up the phone, then maybe they shoot an email into the service desk. They may open up, there's apps for iOS and Android, so they may open up on a tablet and phone and submit an incident or a request, all possible with Ivanti Service Management. if I take a particular request, then you'll notice in addition to, similar tabs where I've got history down here in regards to the journal, right? And this is where you can see those service level targets and those automated escalations that may be a part of that workflow taking place. So as things age, we send out an escalation and say, hey, this hasn't been addressed. And then we go one level further and say, hey, manager, they're not addressing this request. And then we say, hey, director, the manager is not paying attention to the request. Again, those are all things that can be built in that same Visio style workflow so that nothing falls through the cracks. You also have visibility and access to the CMDB. So as you're dealing with an incident for a user, you may want to relate that back to a specific device, whether it be an application, whether it be a server, whether it be somebody's desktop. And that's going to give them some additional access to be able to see things like hardware and software configuration information you've collected, which can be input manually. There's also the ability to integrate with things like Avanti Endpoint Management, Microsoft SCCM, other tools that are collecting this data, Excel spreadsheets, if you've got it, and be able to import that into the CMDB so you can provide some subject matter expertise to your users. So as they're supporting your customers, they not only know who they're supporting and what they're supporting, but how is it configured and how is that set up. If they want to go further, then through this configuration item tab, they can actually dive one level deeper and take a look at the details for that particular asset. So additional information like hardware and software how is the hard drive configured, and details on operating system and things of that nature. I can break all of that down and give them the ability to dig into all of that configuration data through the CMDB. If you're doing any kind of event management and monitoring, you may be sending automated monitoring events as outages occur. So we can automatically collect those against that asset and let you know when that asset's up or down. And you've got some out-of-the-box reports and dashboards that will show you and report on that availability or uptime. So it's easy to go to somebody and the manager executive and say, hey, we've had 99.9% availability for email for the last 6 months, or internet service for the last month. Be able to break down into software. So understanding exactly what's installed on the device, which patches, which applications do they have, what kind of support history do they have, so how many other incidents have occurred with this laptop or this desktop, how many problems have we worked on, how many changes have been made over time to this device, how many times have we had to go in and make an update or some type of configuration change, so that you have full visibility into the asset as it relates to a user's incident or issue that they're reporting. If you're looking to integrate back into kind of the full Avanti stack, where we talk about endpoint management, being able to actually do things like remote control, deploy patches, install software, then we've got the ability to deploy agents directly from here so that you can manage the device. So I can actually log into the server, being able to open up a screen and install software, or if I need to remote control into it and install a patch or uninstall a piece of software through that agent, I have the ability to do that right here through a single pane of glass, so that I'm not having to escalate this ticket or forward this ticket on to network engineers or server admins. I can simply access it through here without having to open up another screen, without having to authenticate some other tool, but give me the ability to actually interact with this device and make the changes that I need to get this user up and operational as quickly as possible, without having to start passing things around because I don't have access, or maybe I don't have the skill set to be able to perform some of those actions. You can build that into this interface and allow for a lot more automation to be able to resolve a lot more issues and drive up your first call resolution percentage. If you're looking to be able to build network diagrams and maps of your environment, so that you understand not only what you're dealing with in terms of a specific incident, but what kind of other devices does it connect to and rely upon or draw upon? So if I have a problem with a device, is it a local problem with that user's computer or desktop? Is it a problem with network storage? Is it a problem with the email server? So this would give me, again, some subject matter expertise to be able to dive in here and see exactly how it sits within the environment, as well as to be able to understand if there's a problem with a server that's upstream that has already got a reported issue or problem that's being worked on. Or is it a problem with a particular service that's, that it relies upon? So again, this is a great way out of the CMDB, both for incidents, problems, changes, whatever you may be dealing with, to provide some good subject matter expertise so that even if they're, the first week on the job or brand new to the environment, they can have some information that can help them better support and better understand the customers as they report those outages. Any questions so far, Rich?
No additional questions. And folks, please, this is your time to ask. Take advantage of the fact of us having Kyle Hamilton on the call today. So definitely reach out and type your questions in. We'll get them answered for you.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the additional layers like problem management, change management, all of those, you'll see tabs at the bottom related to this incident in this case. And you'll see I can create new changes directly through those tabs. And I may even have templates for certain types of changes. So things that occur frequently, you need to apply a patch, you need to upgrade the operating system, maybe upgrade the application, make a change to a routing table on a router. You can have pre-built templates for all types of changes. You can even have kind of standard templates built for standard changes and pre-approved changes and emergency changes. So those things can easily be created through the tabs. You can also create what's referred to as quick actions. So you'll see up here in the top right-hand menu that I can have actions that I can take all the way from being able to send out pre-built notifications. So you need to be able to communicate with the customer and let them know of updates and information that may be pertinent that you want to keep them, make them aware of, rather than having to type that same text over and over 50 times a day. I can have those things pre-built in here so that if I need to send out some type of an update to the user, I can simply access that from the quick menu. And in my details section, it's going to send out that automated notification that shows all of that update that I've built into that, so that I can have those canned responses that are available so I can quickly get those out to users as needed, rather than having to wait or rely upon that automated workflow if necessary. I can do the same thing when it comes time to creating problems. So I may create a simple toolbar button that says I need to relate this incident back to some larger problem that needs to be investigated. So if we've got a software failure in the environment, I can go in and add in my details and create a problem that will then automatically be linked to that incident, so that not only is that visible from the incident, but then if I want to go to and actually look at the problem record, it makes it easy for me to follow that breadcrumb and look at the details of what's going on in terms of root cause analysis. It brings forward the asset information so they know the same asset that the problem exists on and what they're dealing with. And I can do the same thing from here for a change. So if I develop or come up with a resolution, which is kind of the ultimate goal of problem management. So I have some resolution that I arrive at. Then when I put that in, I want to create a request for a change. So I can easily then take that, push that into a change request, go in and detail, what type of change it is, right? Is it a major change? Is it an emergency change? Is it software related? Is it a network update that needs to be made? So that kind of moving from incident to problem to change can become very, very automated and as easy as you want to make it, whether they do that through the templates and the tabs available to them at the bottom of each screen, or whether you create those toolbar buttons to allow them to do the same. Those are all configurable for your install specifically, so those aren't set in stone. You can create toolbar buttons to automate and create macros for virtually any type of activity that the user may go through within the tool. Now, in addition to being able to log and detail all your incidents and problems and changes, create knowledge-based articles, things like that within Avanti Service Management, you also have easy ability to be able to pull out metrics. Let's say for my manager, my service desk administrator, they may have an admin dashboard where they have a hot list of the key reports that they draw upon on a daily basis. So I want to get a breakdown of my incident and request management activity. Everything from what's my average response time and resolution time based on those SLAs. If you're doing things like tracking costs, what's my average cost to resolve an incident? What's my average cost to onboard an employee based on the raw cost of the hardware and equipment they request, as well as the labor cost, as well as being able to break things down from just a load balancing perspective. How many tickets were logged, how many have been closed, how many have been resolved, by which group, by which team, by which user, what's the average customer feedback rating. You can generate surveys at the completion of your incidents, at the completion of your service requests, and be able to have that all in a single page report that kind of summarizes everything nicely, to give you all those key metrics. If you're doing things like the event management, for example, and you want to be able to go in and pull metrics based on those outages that occur with email or with internet access and things like that, then from a managerial level, you have a set of dashboards and metrics that you can easily pull up and view in real time to see, again, kind of the load balancing, who's opened and closed the most tickets or has the most things on their plate. What's the average feedback and rating for those different groups, quality of service and what was their knowledge level, things like that. Getting into event management, availability is going to show you things like uptime and downtime. So how long has my email service been available for the last month or the last 6 months? These are all out of the box dashboards and metrics so that you can use these. All it simply requires is start logging tickets, start logging those outages, start feeding those events into Ivanti Service Management, and you've got the ability to pull these metrics right back out of the tool very easily. Now, in addition to that, there's also a tool called Extraction. Extraction not only works on Ivanti Service Management, but it works across all the Ivanti products, whether you're using Service Manager that we talked about today, and you want to pull, operational metrics based on service desk activity. Or I want to dig into something specific, maybe like change management, and I want to look at change trending or change information based on my environment. If you're using Avanti Endpoint Manager to do patching and software deployments and things of that nature, also being able to dig into the endpoint management side. How many different operating systems do I have out there? How much memory do they have? Who's ready to be upgraded? Who needs to be have more memory or additional hard drive space before we're capable of upgrading them. This will allow you to tap into all of the Avanti products and kind of unify your dashboard and reporting across a single tool. Not only the Avanti tools, but being able to also reach outside of Avanti. So there's even third-party connectors if you want to go in and start pulling information out of, say, your antivirus. You're using McAfee or Symantec. You want to capture SolarWinds events. You want to look at vMotion events coming out of VMware. Being able to create kind of a unified dashboard for executives where they can manage the environment, not just from service management, but also operational management, virtual environment, cloud, you name it, so that they can have views that will provide them kind of a statewide picture of what's going on, and what, those things of concern. They can look at it one at a time. This is even a great way that you can take things from maybe multiple tools, and if you wanted to present those in an overhead, some kind of a shared screen, in the support area where you want to have people walking through support, and you want to give them, kind of a flash by of different dashboards, then I can set these up on a big screen monitor and have it set up so that it'll simply cycle through those dashboards, so that when somebody's walking through that support area, they can easily get a look at what's going on. And we got calls spiking, where do we need to pay our attention? Where does our focus need to be? And those things, again, can easily be dropped and added in, up to and even including things like if you want to tie into your voice switch. So you may want to pull in things like your voice statistics. How long have my customers been on hold? How many customers have bailed out because they sat on hold for too long and just decided it wasn't worth it? So this gives you the ability to not only provide executives and managers with some, real-time information that they can easily pull together for themselves and create their own dashboards, but also be able to tap into external tools so that you can get rid of other things like SQL reporting services or Crystal reports, and kind of unify your reporting on a single platform. I know we're right to the end of our time. So Rich, again, I'll turn it back over to you once more and say, do we have any questions? Anything anybody needs to know or would like to ask, please feel free.
Looks like we don't have any other questions, and it sounds like everybody got what they were looking for. But folks, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Visit us on our chat with us live. Our TSM experts, our IT experts are standing by Monday through Friday during normal business hours. They'd love to talk to you. You can also send us an email to info@flycastpartners.com. I'm going to thank you for taking time out of your very busy day. And folks, I'm going to wish you a great week, the rest of your week. Kyle, thank you so much, sir, for taking time out of your day for us.
You're very welcome. I hope everybody has a good one.
Enjoy.